So one more time, hello to each of you guys. I hope that you're all doing great. So this is our second session for this unit, BSB XCS 303, which is talking about how to protect our PII or personally identifiable information. I'll just do a quick review in a few minutes just to make sure that we have all of our classmates on board. And then in our tonight class, we will have a chat about what might be the best practices to protect sensitive information as a person, or if you are working in a company or organizations and you may have access to different types of data, how we are able to protect the organizational information. So we will have a chat about encryption. We will have a chat about some basic security thing like firewalls, IDS, and IPS systems. And also, as discussed in the previous class, we had a look on some Australian legislation. In our tonight class also, we will have a look on a very interesting report generated by OAIC, and we will see what might be the main reason for people that they may disclose their sensitive information. In the previous class, firstly, we had a chat about PII, standing for personally identifiable information. As discussed in last class, this type of data might be anything like your name, your last name, your email, your phone number, your IP address, your employment information. As you see here in this slide, it might be your financial data, including your bank details, credit card numbers. You may have an account in cryptocurrency platforms like CoinSpot or Binance or etc. Medical records, face recognitions, fingerprints. It might be non-sensitive information like your email address. As discussed in the previous class, some of those information probably by their own doesn't have any value. But when they combine with some other pieces of data, then they can create some useful information for malicious guys or for uh, attackers to just put a couple of different pieces of data next to each other and create something meaningful. So it's very important also to be on top of our information. So these are some kinds of personal identifiable data, medical number, tax file number, and etc. In our tonight class, we will have a brief chat on how we are able to protect this type of data. Also, in previous session, we had a chat about organizational or workplace information. So each of you, imagine that if you are working in your current job, what type of organizational data you are dealing with. In your daily job, imagine the type of information you are interacting. It might be legal and compliance data, like reports, contracts, organizational documents. It might be your employment contracts. It might be contract with the suppliers, contract with the third-party providers. It might be your customers' information if you are dealing with customers or clients. So probably you have access to that type of information, like their contact details, like their purchase history. It might be financial data. Imagine that you work for a real estate. Imagine you work for an insurance broker. You may have access to payroll. You may have access to expenses report. You may have access to budgets. Imagine that you have a work laptop, or in the future you can get a job as an IT person. So highly possible you have a work laptop and you have all of those information on those devices, and then you just leave your laptop in your car just to go and get a coffee or go get a burger or something, and someone steal the laptop from your device, and your laptop doesn't have very strong security. That's the topic that we will go through in our tonight class. So all of those information which belongs to your employer, which belongs to organization also, they are sensitive, they have information. Communication data, it's very important. If, for example, you work in a business and I can get access to your account by some way, obviously I can get access to your colleagues' emails, your managers, and obviously when I have access to those type of data, I can escalate my access level to the manager's permissions and just like that. We will learn more about that in cybersecurity courses. That usually the first step that usually hackers they do after getting access to an account, they try to escalate the access level to admin or to manager's level. And the reason is obvious. Managers usually they have access to more softwares, they have access to more systems, they are in contact with the higher level of management, and just because of that, if an attacker or if malicious actor they can get access to a manager profile or a manager email, there is a higher chance of getting access to more sensitive information, and the magnitude of the impacts and the attacks might be much more bigger. So customer records, employee information, equipment maintenance record, health and safety record, financial record, as you see in this slide, We have a chat about it in the previous session. It's very important to secure this type of data. Not only that, the scale of attack and the scale of vulnerability and the scale of impact by getting access to organizational data is much higher and much bigger. So obviously the organizations, they need to implement more stricter security audits, more stricter security devices and policies and procedures to protect their assets and their IT systems. We already have a chat about that. Also in the previous session, we have a chat about Privacy Act and Spam Act. Privacy Act, we went through and we had a look on it. It's passed in 1988. We had a chat also about the privacy principles in Australia. We saw that there are 13 privacy principles talking about how companies are dealing with sensitive information. And also we had a look on office work just as an example to see how companies they declare and they announce their privacy policy. We saw that there are 13 principles talking about how companies should collect information, what type of information they allow to collect, how they are able to deal with those type of information in terms of storing those type of data, sharing those information with third parties, for how long they allow to keep those information, how they're able to give access to the customers to edit their data, and all of those things that you can find it in Privacy Act. Tonight class, I will also have a look on OAIC on notifiable data breach. After moving to my presentation, we will have a look on OAIC website and we have a look on notifiable data breach reports. Here in this slide, as we discussed in the previous class, there might be some common types of data breach: insider leak, credit card fraud, loss or theft, or unintended disclosure. In the OAIC report, we will have a closer and deeper look on different types of data breach. What was data breach? Data breach means information is accessed or stolen by unauthorized personnel without the owner's knowledge or consent. It might be not the person, it might be any other person doesn't have the permission or authority to get access to some specific part of or pieces of data. It's a kind of data breach. Um, what else we had in the previous class? Also, we saw Australian privacy laws. We saw there are a couple of other legislations, specifically designed for different states or territories, like Information Privacy Act in 2014, in ACT, pretty similar in New South Wales, Privacy and Personal Information Protection Act, and Personal Information Protection Act also in Tassie. What else? There have been also some international data privacy laws like GDPR, as discussed, General Data Protection Regulation or GDPR. It sets some standards for data privacy and security for European citizens. Doesn't matter even if they live out of the European borders, this GDPR apply to all European citizen, doesn't matter where they live. It means that if a business is providing services for EU citizens, they need to be aware and they need to comply with GDPR as well. Okay, so that was what we had in the previous session. What I want to do now, GDPR was a case of international laws, but what I want to do, we want to have a look on notifiable data breach. So let me share my screen and go to a browser, screen one. Notifiable data breach report. So in your browser, if you just search for notifiable data breach, you see OAIC. We had a look on OAIC website yesterday. Let's you have a look on this website. OAIC, as discussed, Office of Australian Information Commissioner. This report that I'm going to show you, it's a very, very interesting one. Here you see download notifiable data breach report. They have different reports for different time frames. I'll just have a look on this one just to get some insight about the data. We can find this report. It's for last year. It's for December 2024. And for 2025 also, there should be a new report coming up very soon. Let's have a look on this one. It's for last year. Let me to make it a little bit bigger. This report gives us heaps of information about kinds of different ways that we may experience a data breach. Let you go down and I show you some interesting figures and statistics in Australia. Here it shows the top 5 sectors to notify data breach. Under OAIC standards, if there's a case of data breach, for example, imagine that you work in a business, in a company, in a shop, and there is a case of data breach. It means that PII or sensitive information of our clients or colleagues or students, it's shared to someone else. So businesses, they have an obligation to notify OAIC, and based on that, and based on the numbers that they collected through 2024, there have been 595 notifications, which means 15% higher than the comparing year in 2024, ending June 2024. And here you see the top 5 sectors. Health service providers with 121 cases, they've been on the first place, which means health service providers like GP clinic, dental clinics, and this kind of services, they had the highest number of data breach, which is pretty concerning. Just imagine they may disclose sensitive information like history of medications or patient health history and etc. They disclose it to someone else. Maybe they disclose it to their family, maybe they close it to other clients and patients. Australian government surprisingly also is in the second place. So we expect that Australian government should be very secure, and they should be, but Australian provide government services like Centrelink, ATO, they sit in the second place. Probably, if not, if you just have a look sometimes on some Centrelink branch, sometimes it shocks us that they don't follow even the basic cybersecurity procedures now. They're much better than before, but I remember a couple of years ago, in one of the Centrelink offices, they had their passwords on a sticky note attached to a monitor. So Australian government is in the second place. Financial services, including banks, superannuations, insurance, and etc., they're in the third place. Legal, accounting, and management services in the fourth place, and retail in the fifth place in the top 5 sectors to notify data breach. It might be a little bit more interesting if I go down and you see 60% of data breach affected 100 people or less. So it's good, but when I go down and we can have a look on more in-depth data, it may shock you because the type of data breach which impacting more than 100 people, it means that it has a very, very big magnitude. Only having one case of data breach, in case of Optus, impacted like 10 million Australians. Let me go down. In this next slide, let me to make it a little bit bigger. Source of data breach, you see that around 1/3 of this data breach is coming from human errors. So like 29% is coming from human error. It means that, for example, an admin, by mistake, they sent data to someone else. Or, for example, not having a secure passport, or, for example, having their devices is unattended. But 69% is coming from malicious or criminal events. So 1/3 is coming from human error, and like 69% or 2/3 of the incidents just happen because of criminal attacks and malicious activity. Among these cyber incidents, 34% are phishing. All of us, we have experience of getting phishing emails, phishing messages, phishing phone calls that your Netflix account is going to expire. You have an outstanding bill. You have all of those things that probably you get it in your email. In some months, it's more common. For example, in November, in December, because of having so many occasions like Boxing Day and Flag Friday, they should be very common. In July, because of tax return time, so phishing attacks might be higher, and as you see, 34% is just coming from the phishing attacks, ransomware, hacking, and all the way down to malware. Let you go down and have a look on some other information. Human error is up by 10% from 155 to 170. System fault, it's down by 29%, which means that companies they investing more and more on their resources and in the security system. So system fault is lower by 1/3, which is fine. But in the other side, the human factor is increasing. And also in the other side, you see that malicious or criminal attack has been increased by 17%. Despite of all of the cybersecurity efforts and the investments that the federal governments and the state government they put in improving the security and cybersecurity, you see that the number of malicious or criminal acts is has increased by 17%. So in a big scale, in a national wide scale, it might be a little bit concerning. It means that we need to focus and train our staff, train our public people just to be more aware about the malicious criminal cybersecurity activity. And not only that, human error also is up, which means that it doesn't matter how much you invest in your system. If our staff, they don't follow the cybersecurity procedure, if they are not trained, or if they train but they don't follow the security procedure, still we might be vulnerable. So even investing billions of dollars in the security system, if the human factor doesn't follow the security guidelines, if the human factor, our staff, our customers, our students, if they are not aware, if they are not trained, if they don't follow the latest guidelines, still we might be vulnerable. So a very, very useful information in this slide. Let's move on. Here you see that slightly we have an uptrend from 2023 up to 2024 with some fluctuations in some months. So it might be interesting for the security expert to see what happened in March 2023, that there have been 99 cases and all of a sudden it jumped to 46. So like 50% reduction in number of data breach from March to April. Why we experienced this plunge. But also after that, you see that we have a pretty upward trend. In some months, it was a little bit higher. In the other months, it went down. But generally talking, it means that it has a pretty positive slope and upward slope. So we, again, for IT students, it might be interesting to go and check why, despite of all the cybersecurity investments and efforts, we may still see more and more cases of data breach. If you are interested, and if you say that the 2 year is pretty short time frame, and you're interested to see how it's look like in a wider time frame, like in a 5 year time period or in a 10 year time period. So again, you can just go to OAIC website and download the reports for a longer period of time to see how it's look like if we have a very significant jump in our data breach or not. Let's go down, and this report has more interesting information. Let's go down. This slide and this information is really interesting. Number of individuals worldwide affected by the breach. It means that there have been 146 cases that they impacted only one person. For example, I forwarded an email from someone to someone else, and in that email, there have been phone number, email address, or some other information that I sent it to someone else. Only I impacted one person. There have been 146 cases impacting only one person. There have been 91 cases of impacting someone between 10 to 2 to 10 people. 139 cases impacted a population between 11 to 100. There have been 121 cases, impacted somewhere between 100 to 1,000 cases. And if you go down, you see there have been two cases that impacted more than 500,000. So 146 cases of impacting only one person compared to having two cases impacting up to 1 million people. It means that this type of cyber breach or data breach in a bigger scale, how big and what might be the significance of impacting people. Two cases may impact 2 million. And we had a couple of these cases in the last few years in Australia, like the case of Optus, which was one of the most obvious one. We had Medibank and so many others. So in a very big scale, it indicates the importance of cybersecurity procedures. It indicates how important for businesses with hundreds of staff or customers or patients or students to protect their security. Let's go down. Among the type of data that been revealed, you see contact information with 489 cases, identity information, financial details, health information, tax file numbers, and some other sensitive information has been revealed. Contact information like name and last name and phone number and email, like 500 cases. Again, in the case of Optus, if you remember, there have been so many clients that they have their ID card also. rebuilt. Financial details like banking details, as we discussed in PII, there have been 266 cases. Let's go down and have a look on some other interesting information. Here you can see a breakdown of the different types of breach like malware, ransomware, hacking, brute force attacks, and etc. Let you go down. This chart also shows very interesting data. Human error breakdown. As discussed, one third of data breach was coming from human errors. In human errors, sending an email to a wrong recipient includes 42% of data breach. Imagine that you work in a business, or in the future, if you're not in IT now, imagine in near future, very soon, you get a job in IT. And imagine that it's, for example, Friday afternoon and you need to pick up someone from airport and you finish everything on time. But in the last minute, your manager gives you another task just to send this information to these people because they need to have it before Monday or by Monday. So as discussed in the previous class, you just put the name, the recipient names in the receiver sections or in the CC section instead of putting in BCC sections. Sometimes there might be people with similar names or sometimes even with similar surnames. You don't check the full detail, you don't check the full name, and you send the data to a wrong person. So personal identifier information sent to wrong recipient with 42% is on the top. Unauthorized disclosure, unintended release or publications. Disclosing information to someone else without having their permission. For example, one of your friends calls you and they ask you for someone's information because you have access to system. They give you a phone call, they send a message to you, and they ask you, are you able, for example, to send me this information? Health records, a student status, and etc. Failure to use BCC when sending email, unauthorized disclosure, 6%, unauthorized disclosure verbally, 6%, loss of paperwork, data storage devices, 5%, personal information sent to wrong person, again 5%, and just like that, by email, by other ways. So these are the main human error breakdown statistic. It means that if currently you work with in IT jobs, if you work in an office, or if in the future you get a job in IT, or if you get a job in help desk, be very cautious. It's very important. Don't just to double check the name, just to make sure that you are sending the emails to the right audience, just to make sure that the spelling is correct. It doesn't matter if it takes time. It's very important because you see that majority of these data breaches are coming from sending data to a wrong person. Let you go down. Here you see some other information. The time taken to identify breach. So imagine that I do a wrong thing and I send the information, some information to a wrong target group, sending data to a wrong person or sending uh, email to a group of people, but I forgot to use BCC. 52% of cases, they've been detected in less than 10 days, which is good. But in the other side of this chart, you see 30%, like almost one third of the cases, they've been not detected in a month, which is pretty concerning. Later on in cybersecurity, if you proceed, we will see for attackers, sometimes they have access to the systems for more than 6 months, being no unnoticed. So in that 6 months, they've been collecting everything. They had the footprints in our systems. They had access to our resources without being detected, which is pretty concerning. And as you see, it means that one third of data breach it happened. But even after making those errors or mistakes, still the companies probably they didn't have any auditing systems or they didn't notice for more than 30 days, 30% of data breach then detected. When you compare this data in human error and malicious or criminal attack, you see 62% of human errors, they've been detected in less than 10 days. And that's pretty acceptable. It means that I did a mistake and I quickly noticed that. Why? Because probably I sent an email to someone and after 2, 3 days, probably they followed up and I said, oh, I already sent it to you last Friday. And they said, sorry, we didn't get anything. And when I go and check, I say, oh my God, I sent it to someone else. Or sometimes when I click on send, I noticed that, oh my God, I was thinking about something different. I wasn't here. And I quickly noticed. So 62%, they quickly noticed that they had a case of data breach. Why these numbers are important? Because companies and organizations, they have a responsibility to report the cases of data breach at a specific time. Otherwise, not only it will impact their reputations, but also they may face some penalties and infringement. So it's very important to quickly detect the cases of data breach and inform the authorities. Let's go down. Again, that's the breakdown in top 5 sectors, sources of breach. I go down. In this next slide, source of breach in the top 5 sectors, you see that malicious or criminal attack still is one of the top across health services, Australian government, and financial services, legal and retail, they're pretty close. Cyber incident, however, in Australian government is pretty low, only having 3 cases. But in the other side, social engineering and impersonation is so high. So this chart may can give you some insight to think why cyber incident is too low for Australian government entities, but social engineering and impersonation is quite high, having 60 cases in Australian government. So it means that Australian government entities, they need to focus more on this type of attacks like social engineering. We will learn more about social engineering, impersonation, pretending that an attacker is someone else, and by a fake ID, they can get access to the security system. What it tells us, Australian government services, they have a very up-to-date and a strong security systems, but they are pretty weak and vulnerable in social engineering and impersonation types of attacks. Let's go down. Here in the next slide, you can see the cyber incident breakdown again across health sector, government, agencies, financial sector, legal and retail, and a breakdown of phishing, a breakdown of ransomware, hacking, malware, brute force attack. And also a breakdown of human error cases, sending a wrong recipient email, unauthorized disclosure. You see that across the all 5 sector, they're pretty the same. In retail, having the case of sending the personal information to a wrong person was pretty low, only 1 cases, comparing to 15 cases in health sector, comparing to 13 cases in financial services, which is quite high. And just like that. So this report, you can simply find it. If you just go down, you can see system fault breakdown as well. Unintended access, unintended release or publication. In our assessment task 2, we will see how companies are able to limit access to some files, folders, and resources. But this report is pretty interesting because it gives us a bit of more insight about the different types of data breach across the type 5 sector in Australia, trend, number of percentage of human errors and system failure and all of those things. Okay, cool. So I just leave this for you. Obviously, if you go and have a look on OAIC website, you can find all the other time frame reports and much more interesting information here in OAIC website. You just need to go to privacy notifiable data breach reports. I just used the 2024 as a sample, but you see that for 2023, for 2022, and all the other years, you can simply find similar types of reports. Okay, cool. Now that we are aware of the importance of personal information, my next topic is how we are able to protect this data. Let me switch back to my board and I can see that there are 21 chats in the messages. Let me have a look. Making over a third of the total breach, correct. Contest allowed my personal information under the board. Interesting statistic on chart 111, time taken to identify breach by source of breach. Yes, that's totally true. E1, biggest spikes at 110 and over. Cool. Thank you so much for all of you guys that you contribute to the topic. But yeah, it gives us heaps of information about the source and about the time. Time specifically is so important because if it takes more and more time to detect those type of breach, it means that it might be too long. It's just like a disease, just like a cancer. Imagine having someone having a cancer. If they detect it in the earlier stage, probably they may have enough time for treatments. Probably they have more options and more choices for medicine and those procedures. But if it's been undetected for a period of time, for example, if the cancer develops to a stage 2 or stage 3, it might be too late to treat it. It's the case for cyber incident as well. If those type of incidents they detected as early as possible, it means that there should be more time to take some actions. Sometimes there might be cases of data breach. Imagine I recently started a new position as an IT help desk, as an admin or something. I'm pretty new and I have stress. There have been so many tasks that I've been asked to do, and just by mistake, I sent data on to a wrong person or some other types of incidents. And I'm pretty concerned to inform the managers or to inform the company that I did that wrong task. Later on in Cert 4 in cybersecurity, we have a unit talking about incident response. It means that when something happens, what should be the next course of actions? It's just like how to stop the bleeding. Sometimes the staff they might be pretty concerned. They worried, oh my God, I did this. I shouldn't notify the company. But if that case happened to you, don't worry. Just go and inform your manager as soon as possible. Because if you fail to do that, probably you may face some penalties or so you just make the case even worse. Just inform the direct manager that something happened like that and I'm not sure what to do. Don't worry about the outcome. You just need to inform. And if you have a look on OAIC, you will see all the responsibilities that people and companies they have to do when there is a case of data breach. Later on in certificate for cybersecurity, we have a unit talking about the responsibilities of a staff if there is some type of cyber attacks or data breach, what we should do, how to inform the victims, how to inform the OIC, how to inform the managers if the managers are not available, who might be the next person that we need to inform them. And then they have an incident response plan. And in that plan, they know what they need to do, how to contact the authorities. Let me go to my board. Cool. So what I want to do now, I just want to have a very brief chat about the best practices when there is a case of data breach. So the topic is best practice for protecting PII. Okay, so in this topic, I'm going to talk about the best practices, the best guidelines for both people and organizations. Firstly, I start the best practices for people. The first things that usually we can do to protect our information, I can say it's identity and access. Identity and access security. So just think about how you're able to improve your identity and access security. I can give you some examples. One of the very, very basic things that we can do is to use unique and complex passwords for every account. When we are talking about unique and complex or strong passwords, what does it mean? Probably you say that a strong password means that it should be at least 10 character, or it should be at least including a symbol or an uppercase. But do you know why having a lengthier passwords with all of those combination might be a better option? Yes, two-step authentication, I go through that as well. If I want to start with a very simple and basic example, yes, it's coming from guessing. But imagine that you have a combination lock. Let me put it a little bit bigger. Imagine you have a combination lock in your bike or I don't know, in your suitcase, and it has only two digits. You forgot the password. You can't remember what was the password. Or maybe your kids they changed the password and you can't remember it. Okay, so probably the easiest option is to start by setting 00, then change it to 01, change it to 02, all the way down to 99. Probably it takes you 10 to 15 minutes to go and check all of those numbers to eventually find the right code. 00, 10, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, all the way go down to 99. If you have a combination lock with three digits, if it's two digits, so there should be 100 options, including 00 all the way down to 99. So there should be 100 options if there are only two digits in your combination lock. But what happens if the combination lock has three digits? Again, you can start from 000, then change it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way down to 999. So if you start from 0, and you should be lucky having a password in like 100 or 200 range, probably it takes you 20 minutes to find the password or to find the code. But imagine that the code that you set and you forgot is something like 954. So it takes you a couple of hours probably to go and test all the possible combinations. It's the same thing when we are talking about a strong password. So here, when I have three digits, it means that I should check thousands options. So you can definitely forecast by having a combination like with four digits, there should be 10,000 options. A combination like with five digits, it has 100,000 options. So it takes more time. If having a combination like with two digits take me 10 minutes, having a combination like with three digits probably will take a few hours. Having a combination like with four may take one day. And just like that. So imagine that you have a combination lock with 128 8 digits. That's the introduction to encryption that I will talk about it in our tonight class. So if there is combination lock with 128 digits and you forgot the password, probably it's better just to put the combination lock or the suitcase to the rubbish because it takes ages to find the code. So it takes more time. When we are talking about the strong password, it means that firstly, we need to have some minimum length of character, 10 to 12. We will see why. But in this case of having a combination like, I just have numbers. For numbers, for each digit, there are 10 options. 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way down to 9. It means 10 option for each digit. The first digit, 10 option, the second one, 10 option, the third one, 10 option, just like that. Here, when I had two digits, it's like 10 times 10, which is 100 options. If there are three digits, it's 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1,000 options. And just like that, if your combination like has four digits, so 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, which is 10,000 different possible options that you know you need to go and check to find the right code. What happens if on top of the numbers, I also add alphabets? So we have A, B, C, D, all the way down, X, Y, Z. So there are 28 letters plus 10. It means for each digit, there are 38 options, which means that it takes more time to guess the right code or to guess the right password. What about if we use uppercase as well? So another 28, which means 38 plus 28. 28, 28, it's 56 plus 10, 66. It means that for each of these digits or cells, there should be 66 options. For example, for this first bits, it might be a number like 0, 1, 2, up to 9, A, B, up to Z, A, B, up to Z. And imagine that you can include symbols as well, like hash, like question mark, exclamation mark, a star. So it means that by having more and more and more characters, we can make it harder and harder and harder for an attacker to guess the password. In this process, that you forgot your combination like password and you just tried all possible numbers. You started from 00, then you went to 01, 02, 03, 04, and etc. We call this process brute forcing. So this is type of attacks. It means that an attacker doesn't have any idea about your password, but they just try every possible option. It's brute force. In a previous unit in Python, we learned about for and while loop. So it doesn't need to have someone sitting on a computer and check every single option. You can write some codes, give some inputs like uppercase, lowercase, number, symbols, and then just ask your Python code to perform this task for you. Now we have password cracker that they are able to go and check and test millions of passwords in a second. In a second. So I show you now a photo which says even if you have a pretty lengthy password, but it only has numbers, it may take just a few minutes for the password trackers to go and break it down to find the right code. Let me show you that photo. Well, I should change my screen. Stop sharing this. I'm sharing my screen. Okay. In this photo, share a screen too. It shows you how much time does it take. This data is pretty old, and I would say that now the time should be less than this. In the left column, you see the number of characters. 4 character, 5 characters, 6 characters. So imagine 4 is like having a combination lock with 4 digits, or 5 digits, 6 digits, or 18 digits. In the second column, it shows numbers only. It means that if you have a combination lock and it only accepts numbers, no letters, no uppercase, no lowercase, and etc., even if you have a password with 11 characters, it takes less than a minute to find your password. If you have a password with 18 digits and it's numbers only, it shows it's 276 years. So now you see that it takes more time. Imagine that it's you and you forgot your combination like password or your suitcase password, but unfortunately it has 18 digits. So as I said, you just need to put it in the rubbish because it takes 276 years to find the right code. Now with the improvement of AI and improvements of quantum computers, the processing power is much more than this. Now we have parallel processing, and probably in just less than a few minutes, even if you have an 18-character password, only numbers, it takes few minutes to detect it. But when you compare the first column with the second column, in the second column, you see it says lowercase letters. So just compare having a password with 11 characters. If it's just only numbers, it's pretty instantly to guess that password. But when you combine it with lowercase, it takes 1 year. When you combine it with uppercase, it takes 2000 years. Exponentially goes up. And the reason is pretty obvious because when you add one more option to each digit, it significantly exponentially creates more options. If you have a look, an 11-digit password having numbers, uppercase, lowercase, and symbols, it says it takes 54,000 years to guess that password, to get that code. So it's quite big time, and probably the attacker, they just ignore it. So it's just like imagine that a theft wants to steal 2 bikes. One bike doesn't have a lock, the other one has a lock. So they simply go and select the one without the lock. Imagine there are 2 bikes. One has an strong and very thick lock, and the other one, it just have a very cheap lock. So probably they go and target the bike with the cheap and pretty big lock. It's pretty the same here. So when we are choosing and we are setting a strong password, we just want to make the job for an attacker harder. I don't want to say it's impossible. That's the reason that we use multi-factor authenticators, because still, even if you're using only passwords, it shows that it takes 54 years, but the PCs are getting stronger and stronger and stronger, so they might be able to guess billions of passwords in a few minutes. So here in this table, you see the importance of increasing the number of characters in your password. For example, if you're using uppercase, lowercase, symbols, and numbers, but you have an only 5-digit password or 6-digit password, still it's guessable. It means that it takes a bit of time, like 17 minutes or 20 hours. So if you have a password with 7 character, even if you have uppercase, even if you have lowercase and symbols, still it only takes 20 hours to guess that password. That's the reason why when you increase the number of characters in your password, it creates more options. And guessing those options takes more time, which makes the job harder for that malicious people to guess your password. That's the importance of setting a strong password. Here you see if you have an 18 character password with having all of those options, it takes 449 quadrillion years. That's too long enough that they just ignore guessing your password. Okay, so that's the importance of password. Let's you go back to my board and we keep talking about the topic. Okay, cool. So that was the first thing, identity and access security. So first of all, if you want to make sure that your passwords and your accounts are secure, make sure that your password is unique for each account and it's a complex password. And now you have a good understanding of what is a complex password. Why it's recommended to use different passwords for different accounts? Because imagine that you have a password for your Gmail and you have the same password for your Facebook account or for another account. So what happens if I manage to hack your Facebook? If I manage to hack your Facebook and I get your password to log into your Facebook account, and then I can get access to your email as well, and I try the same password and it works. If I can get access to your email, it means that I have access to everything. I can simply go to different accounts and say I forgot my password, and they automatically send a reset link. I can go to the inbox, select on the reset link, and then set a new password for all the other accounts that you may have. I know that it might be a little bit painful if you want to have multiple password for multiple accounts, you forget it, you need to go to the I forgot process again and again and again, but it's recommended to have different passwords for different accounts. As I show you, even if you have a strong password, with the improvements in parallel processing and the power of computers, still it's possible that someone can get access to your accounts by guessing the password. So the second option that we can use is multi-factor authenticator. Multi-factor authenticator. So multi-event, why we say multi? Because it might be a two-factor authenticator, it might be a three-factor authenticator or more. Authentication. So all of you, I'm 100% sure that you're familiar with MFA or multi-factor authenticator because Victoria University also for improving the security, it's asking you to download and install a multi-factor authenticator app on your phone, like Microsoft Authenticator or Google Authenticator, and then sync it to your account whenever you want to log in, then it sends you a code. Or imagine in your banking system, it sends you a message and it asks you to copy a code and enter it to the application so you can enter. For your PayPal account, again, that's another type of authenticator. All these type of authenticator, they use different types of tools. As I said, it might be a phone call, it might be a message coming through, it might be a pop-up notification that asks you to copy a number or select a number on your device just to make sure that it's you. So when we are talking about the password, password is something you know, is something in your memory. When we are talking about multi-factor authenticator, it's something you have. So even if I know your password, I saw your password when you try to log into your account, and then tomorrow I try to log into your account because now I know what is your password. But I don't have access to your phone. So not only I should know your password, I should have access to your phone as well. And if your phone has a lock, so I have to unlock your phone. So it makes it harder for me, even if I know your password to log into your account. So something you know, something you have. When we combine these two, it means that now we have a stronger or an extra layer of security using multi-factor authenticator. When we are talking about multi-factor authenticator, it might be in a digital form. Let me go back to my browser. It might be an application that you go and install it, like Microsoft Authenticator or Google Authenticator. But some of the authenticators, they might be physical authenticators. Let me see if my screen is shared. Sharing a screen too, yes. One of those physical authenticators, it's called YubiKeys. So these are another type of authenticators. You need to insert it to your laptop, or companies, if you have a work laptop, they may have one of those. It's just like a USB, but it's not. It's a YubiKey. You can purchase it, and then they configure it in a way that it should be inserted to your devices. It's not this screen. Let me reshare my screen again. Sorry. Screen one. Yes, this one. YubiKeys. They like the USB flash memories, but you just need to insert it to your computers, and they should be synced and configured with your employer, or even for yourself if you want to have an extra layer of security. Instead of using a digital authenticator, you can use a physical authenticator like this. Some of the old style of authenticators, they had a display. Pretty similar to digital authenticators, they had a physical display. Uh, Authenticator, they are pretty old, but authenticator token with display. I'm not sure if you saw this type of authenticators or not, but they create and they perform pretty the same task like your digital authenticator. So imagine, I remember like 20 years ago, bank, they have this type of authenticators or tokens. These type of authenticators, they synchronize with a NTP server and they have an algorithm. They generate random number exactly the same way that your digital authenticator and your phone generate a number. You just need to turn it on. It has a battery, so you just needed to turn it on, and each time it generated a code. The code lasts for like 1 minute or 2 minutes. You just need to take the code and insert it to the website. Then you could log in. Or if you wanted to transfer money, or if you wanted to get access to a server, you needed to have one of these tokens. There are another type of multiple factor authentication as well. You see here SafeNet OTP display. It's called OTP authenticator. They generated a random number. So sometimes after 2 years, 3 years, depending to the battery, you just need to go and replace those devices. Even if you take the battery out for curiosity, or if they dropped and the battery came out, then they didn't synchronize with the server, they didn't work. They generated the code, and when you tried the codes into the software or to the applications, it gives you an error. It says, no, this is the wrong code. Anyway, this is another type of authenticators that we may have, or digital authenticators that you have in your phone. They perform the same task, but also they are more secure because with those devices, you always need to put into your pocket. You may lose it, it may drop, it may be broken, and all of those things. But just wanted to show you the oldest sides of physical authenticator. YubiKeys, as I show you, they are very common for different purposes. Instead, for cybersecurity, we have a unit talking about cloud services and logging to AWS platform. And AWS encourage everyone to use one of these YubiKeys to provide an extra layer of security. So not only it asks your password, what you know, it asks on what you have. So you need to have these tokens with you. You need to insert it to your laptop. Imagine that I have a work laptop. If I go overseas, for example, next week, if I go to China, then my laptop doesn't work. Why? Because my company restricted access to that laptop only here in Australia. So when I go overseas and I connect to internet, the system automatically detects that I'm using an IP address which is out of Australia and it doesn't allow me to log into the system. So it's highly possible that I need to take one of these UB keys attached and insert it to my computer so I can still get access to company data and company IT systems and resources. Let me go back to my board. Okay, so multi-factor authenticator is another things that you can use. Nowadays, majority of the websites, they allow you to connect a multi-factor authenticator to your account. Another things that you can use to improve the security for your personal information is using uh, password manager. Or before moving to password manager, another things that you can use is biometric if the system allows you. Biometrics like fingerprint, like iris scanner. Password, something you know. Multi-factor authenticator in your phone or in those YubiKeys is something you have. And biometrics is something you are. Still, it's possible that I know your password, I log into your account, and then it sends a code to your phone. By chance, I know your phone passcode as well, so I can open your phone and get that password. Or maybe your phone doesn't have a password, so I can see that. Or it might be, for example, a notification coming up on your phone and it shows the detail of the message or it shows the number, so I can simply copy and put it to the application to log in. But if there is a case of biometrics, it's like having three different layers of security: the password, the multi-factor authenticator, and your biometrics. So fingerprint is something that you have. Iris scanner is something that you have. No one can copy it. Still, I don't want to say it's impossible. Still, it's possible to copy someone's fingerprint, but it should be very rare. So what we try to do, we just try to reduce the chance. So it might be very, very rare that someone has your password, they have access to your phone, and they have access to your fingerprint, they copy your fingerprint. It should be pretty hard. Or iris scanner, it should be impossible, almost impossible. There might be some security, however, using biometrics and keeping biometrics. The other things that I want to mention is avoid. Avoid what? Avoid saving. Avoid saving passwords in your browser. Avoid saving passwords in your browser. Sometimes when you create a new account or when you update your password, your browser automatically suggests you do you want to save it. It's okay if you are only using, if that's only you that you're using that PC, but saving the passwords in the browsers are not secure. I can show you why. Let's do switch my screen and let me to find an account. Best bank. Sharing my screen one. Okay, imagine that I'm not a Westpac customer, but imagine that my customer ID is something like that. And for the password, I put something here. So it has the option to see the password, but imagine that I created my account and my password has been saved in my browser. As you see, I'm using Edge, Microsoft Edge browser. It doesn't matter even if you're using any other browser. So sometimes imagine that you left your PC unattended or your laptop unattended, and when I click on the Westpac login page, it automatically fills the consumer ID and the password. Even if I don't know what is the password, again, in cybersecurity, we have a unit talking about website vulnerability. If I just right click on the password section, right click on the password section, and if I go to inspect, it shows and opens the source code. If you remember in our Python programming unit, we had different types of data or data types. We had float, we had integer, we had string, we had booleans, and etc. Here, we have pretty the same things. It says the ID is password and the type is password. So password as a data type, it has some features. One of those features is just to hide the password. If I go and change this data type, for example, I change, for example, by deleting A or P and I press enter, you see that it shows the password. If I go back and in the type, I put it back as a password, as a data type, and I press enter. Now you see that it hide it again. So it doesn't matter if it's hidden, but it saves in your browser. It's pretty easy. It takes 2 seconds. So I just need to right click, go to inspect, get access to the source code, and then change the data type from password to anything, just something which is not defined for the system. I delete it and I press enter. So it will reveal your password. So don't save your passwords in your browser. Even if you save it for the convenience, that's fine, but make sure to not leave your devices unattended. Leaving your physical access in cybersecurity, when I teach in cybersecurity courses in Cert 4, in diploma, or in bachelor, I always encourage everyone, don't leave your devices or laptops, phones, and etc. unattended. Physical access means access. Even if you have a password on your laptop, I can log in a few minutes. So don't leave your devices unattended in public area. And here it shows why saving the passwords in the browser is not a secure option. Let me go back to the board. Cool. So avoid saving passwords in your browser. Always make sure that you have unique passwords. Always use multi-factor authenticator. For your devices, as I mentioned, don't leave your devices unattended. You've been working from 9 o'clock till 1 and you're so tired, you just go for 5 minutes for a cigarette, just to take a coffee. I don't know. You just go to toilet for 2 minutes. Just turn off your PC or lock your screen if you don't want to turn on your PC. Just lock your screen. Don't leave it as it is. It's very important. It's one of the most important things that you need to deal with your devices. Always keep your devices updated. Don't leave it. Sometimes it doesn't allow you to proceed if you don't update your devices to the latest version. But even if it allows you to keep working with your devices, always make sure to update your operating system to the latest version. The reason is if you are using the old versions, it's a bunch of codes. So a software is nothing, just bunch of codes. So usually the team, if you remember in our previous unit, we've been talking about the software development life cycle. It's a start with an idea, then writing the code and testing and troubleshooting and security checking and etc. But it's still possible after a while, someone can get some vulnerabilities in those codes. That's the reason that you have new updates or new batch. Sometimes the updates or batch is just to have extra features or changing the layout or fixing the bugs. Sometimes it's just designed to address some vulnerabilities. So always make sure that you're using the latest operating system in your devices. Install antivirus. If you are visiting dodgy websites, if you are using public Wi-Fi's a lot, so it's recommended to have an antivirus. If it's just your home that you use your laptop or it's your workplace and you're using Windows or you're using some other operating system like Mac or Ubuntu, they will already have antivirus, they already have firewalls and they can protect your device. But if you're, as I said, you're using public Wi-Fi's or different websites, so it's better to use an anti-malware or an antivirus to improve the security. The other thing is use WPA2 or WPA3 in your Wi-Fi. So if you go to your Wi-Fi settings, I would say 99% by default, it has WPA2. WPA3 is not still compatible with all devices, but if you are not sure, you can go and check. But I would say 99%. Your device has at least WPA2 encryption. I will talk about the encryption to see what it does and why WP3 is stronger than WPA2. It's just like having a longer key. It's just like having this combination lock, having a combination lock with 10 digits or 20 digits or 100 digits. So WPA3, just for simplicity, imagine it has a longer key, which means that it takes more time for the attackers to guess your password. The other things that you can do to improve the security of your personal information is, for example, to mm, enable encryption. I will talk about the encryption. Enable encryption in your devices. For example, if you're using Windows, Windows has an option called BitLocker. In your Windows, if you go to the search bar and type BitLocker, so it shows you a lock, combination lock, and then you can encrypt a file or encrypt a folder or encrypt a whole drive or file wallet. That's another thing that you can use to encrypt your data. The other things that you can do to improve the security of your information, always submit your information on websites with HTTPS. Let me show you what I mean. When you visit a website, it doesn't matter if it's a banking website or any other website. If you have a look on the search bar here on the top, you see that it says start with HTTPS. HTTPS. And also here you see there is a sign of a padlock. It's very, 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 very important. Some websites, they don't have that S. It shows HTTP and the address of the website. And you can't see that padlock. Instead, your browser shows a red cross. Heaps of the time, your browsers will block or they give you a warning when you want to visit a website with HTTP. What is the difference between HTTPS and HTTP? HTTPS, it's the secured version. It's just like that you want to go and do some shopping. Imagine you go to Coles or Woolies and you want to purchase canned foods. And there are so many different brands. And there is a tuna, or there is, I don't know, any other food that you want. And it doesn't have any name. It doesn't have any brand. It's just like a can with no brand, a can with no logo. It's raw. So you will not buy it because you don't know what are the ingredients. You don't know what is the expiry date. You don't know who made it. So obviously, supermarkets, big supermarkets, they don't allow having those type of products in their shelves. They say, "Oh no, we don't know who are you. You need to have logo, you need to have the standards, you need to have." It's pretty the same. If you have a website and you want to go and change it to HTTPS, you need to contact some organizations on the world and they verify your identity. For example, if I just set up a website like Westpac and I pretend that it's Westpac's application or Westpac website, I need to go and apply for HTTPS or secure version. And those organizations in the world, they check my identity. They ask for some information. They ask about my domain. They ask about the owners. There are different levels of security for HTTPS, but for very sensitive data, for example, financial sector, health sector, they go and check in detail all of those information. And then they can give me this sign or they can give me this HTTPS at the beginning of my domain name. So if you can't see HTTPS, you just see the HTTP and you can't see this padlock, it means that that website is not secure. I don't want to say that 100% unsecure, but I cannot trust. Specifically, if you want to enter some data like customer ID or your password, never do that. Heaps of those websites with HTTP, not with HTTPS, they might be redirect you to an internal account. In cybersecurity, we learn more about that. It might be a Facebook page, 99.99% identical to original Facebook account. You can't see anything. You just go and click, you see that it's the Facebook main page, you put your username, you put your password, and when you click on sign in, you see that nothing happened, but it just again asks you to put your customer ID and your password. And I say, oh, I just entered it a second ago. Maybe there is an issue, and you just repeat it again. What happened? It's a fake main page on the top of the real page. And when you put your number and when you put your password, it captured those information and then it redirect you to the original page. But it got your password. Then when they have their password, they try to check if with that password they can log into your other accounts, if they can log into your bank account, if they can log into blah, blah, blah. So always check this HTTPS at the beginning of the website you want to visit and check that padlock as well. If it doesn't have HTTPS or if you can't see that padlock, don't trust. Specifically if you want to enter your sensitive information. Cool. Let me go back. What else? So I talk a lot. I talk about the complex password, talking about multi-factor authenticator, talking about secure Wi-Fi, talking about updating your operating systems or your browser or the applications, always updated to the latest version, installation of antiviruses or anti-malware, enabling encryption like using BitLocker or FileVault. Um, when, for example, you are visiting a website, make sure that it has HTTPS. If you receive a link,
Amir, can I ask you a question?
yes, of course.
You said that you go to an organization and get something to make it HTTPS.
Yes.
What is that?
HTTPS, it's called SSL.
I
Um,
understand. Is it some? I want to know the technical workings of it. So, is it something like it redirected to something else?
yes, correct. So, for example, HTTPS, when you go to that website,
Mhm.
it sends it's just like checking that website identity with another server. So in your browser, when it's HTTPS, it sends a request to a server, and that server confirms that this website is an original, trusted website. Even bad guys, they are able to create an HTTPS website. It doesn't prevent them, but it's an extra layer of security. But if you want to get an HTTPS, yes, they ask you, for example, imagine I have a domain and I want to register it, and I want to have HTTPS at the beginning of my domain. So yeah, there are some companies, they ask you to register you, and there are a couple of different validation process. For example, they may ask for some basic information, or sometimes if, as I said, it's in the critical industries, yes, they check the domain name, they check the owners, they ask the website owners to send them all of those documents. Then they approve it. It takes time, and also they have to pay for that SSL. It's a kind of certificate. It's called SSL certificates.
Okay, so what I understand is there
Hmm.
are two processes here. One is the acknowledgement from the third party or someone to
Yes.
say that is correct.
Yes,
And
correct.
second thing is that the protocol itself incorporates that.
Yes. Yes, correct.
Okay, okay. Because
Okay.
without that HTTPS, I mean, I understand. So the authentication not only is done at the person who's providing the authentication, but also in the browser knows what to do with it.
Correct, yes. So the browser, for example, if I have, let's say Firefox, or if I have Microsoft Edge, in its memory, it has a list of authorized SSL providers. So Microsoft Edge or your browser, if it's Firefox, that's one of the reasons that we always encourage everyone to use the latest version of the browser. So in the browser, imagine it has a database of all authenticated original providers in the world. So when you go and click on a website, your browser sends a request to those SSL providers, and they ask, can you verify this website? And that server, if it says yes, it means that it's a authenticated website. So your browser logs in. Heaps of the time, if there is not such a SSL, your browser gives you a warning. Sometimes it doesn't even allow you to log in. It says I couldn't get the SSL certificate, which means that I couldn't verify this website, so I can't log in. Or it gives you a warning. Do you accept the risk? I couldn't get the certificates, and I'm not sure if it's a good website or if it's not. So you can say, yes, I accept the risk and I log into the website. Or you can say, no, I'm not sure about the website and I don't want to log in. But here, your browser has a list of all the SSL providers.
Yes, so it's like a cookies which are saved.
Yes, its cookie is pretty different. Cookie is set by a server from the website that you want to visit.
Mhm.
But in terms of procedure, yeah, they're pretty similar. In this case, it's just like someone approving a website, and your browser goes and asks that provider, "Hey guys, do you confirm this website?" And if it says yes, then you can log in.
So does that mean it does for every visit?
For every HTTPS websites visit, yeah, it goes and check that. It gets something like a note. It save it in the memory, but it may have some expiry. Sometimes the browser can keep it for 5 minutes. So if you just don't use that website for 5 minutes, you see that you logged out. Sometimes it's a stay for a longer time, like 1 week or 1 month or 6 months.
Okay,
But yes, your browser always goes and check that SSL certificate.
thank you, thank you.
Now,
Sorry for
I
diversion.
hope I hope that I explained.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, if you want to uh, see that SSL provider, let me switch my screen. Screen one. So yeah, here if you just go to your browser and type SSL provider in, for example, in Australia, SSL provider in Australia, SSL provider. Yeah, it gives you a list of those SSL providers, and they're responsible to generate this certificate authority. To obtain an SSL certificate, choose a certificate authority. So those companies, those organizations, they call certificate authorities or CA. And what they do, they generate a certificate signing request or CSR, and it helps your browser to make sure. It's just like, for example, you go to Woolworths and there are some items on the shelves. You don't know those brands, but because you trust Woolworths, you purchase those products because you say definitely Woolworths will do some investigation, and because I trust Woolworths, then I trust those products as well. Just because you trust Woolworths, you purchase those items. It's pretty the same. So there are some
So
CA.
then, in that case,
Mhm.
the CA could be masqueraded.
Oh no, these are some big companies in the world. They original, yes.
So why can't some other person say, I'm the CA?
Uh, Other persons, because the browsers they design in a way that they just know some specific CAs on the world. If
Okay, okay.
yes.
Yep.
So for example, here my browser, Microsoft Edge, it has a list of approved CA. So
Okay.
when you click on the website, it automatically goes and check with them. So I cannot say that, yeah, I just like that. I say I'm Woolworths. So I'm not. To be a Woolworths, I need to have 1,000 branches. I need to have a brand. People, they need to trust me. That trust is coming from years of operation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good. Let's do go back. What's the time? It's 7. So just let me to quickly go through a couple of more things, and then I see the 19 message in the chat. Uh, Share my screen. Okay, cool. Validate the links. Validate the links. When you get a link in your email, just validate it. It happened to me so many times. Honestly, I get so many phishing emails in my email, specifically in this time because it's end of the year, and then there are so many things happening in the background for us, like for example, renewing contracts, currency, all of those things. And because companies they outsource a part or heaps of their services to third-party providers. For example, WikUni uh, outsource a task to a third-party provider. It's another company. For example, to create the payrolls. For example, to update my contracts, to everything. So I got something coming to my email, and I'm not sure if it's coming from WikUni or no. How should I confirm it? Usually I contact by phone, I contact the HR and say, hey guys, did you send anything? Or for example, I send an email to another email, not replying to the email that I got. I send an email to HR and say, hey guys, I got something like this. I just wanted to make sure that if it was you sending this link or not before clicking on the link. Sometimes those phishing attacks or those links are 99.99% similar. There was a case a couple of days ago. There was a phishing email. It's supposed that it's coming from Microsoft, but instead of macro MIO, it was RN. So if you didn't check, it's very similar. Just imagine M at the beginning of Microsoft or putting RN very close to each other. So RN is like M. So many people, they didn't check that spelling. If you are not sure, a link is coming through to your email, a link is coming to your phone in a message. Click on this link, your parcel is waiting for pickup. Don't click on those links. Check the link is okay. Check the spelling is okay. If you are not sure, with another type of communication, like sending a message, like giving a phone call. NapBank calls me. Is it Amir? Yes. So can I confirm this, this, and this? And I see the phone call is coming from a mobile phone number. I would say, sorry, I'm not trusting you. Is it possible that I give you a call back on a fixed number? If they say no, so okay, sorry, no, I'm not able to help you. But probably they would say, yes, this is a fixed number. You can contact us on this fixed number on this time. A link, bank sends you a link. You are not sure if the link is coming from a bank or not. So give a phone call to the bank. Hey guys, I received an email. I received a link. Is it you? So always confirm those dodgy links if you are not sure the link is coming from a right place or not. Turn off your Bluetooth. Turn off your Bluetooth and AirDrop. If you are not using your Bluetooth, if you are not using your AirDrop, just turn it off. In public places, don't turn it on. You know definitely why. I'm just putting here on my list. So if you are in a train, you're going back home, and your Bluetooth is on and you see something came through to your phone, don't accept it. Turn it off. You don't know who is that person sending that file through Bluetooth or through AirDrop. These are some basic things on how to prevent your personal data. For the organizational data, it's pretty similar. Organizations also, they do a pretty similar procedure when they want to protect their information. The first thing is governance, governance and compliance. Types of companies and big organizations, they go through to this process for compliance, auditing, checking, internal checking, just to make sure that the security is up to date. They follow all the procedures. They have checklists. They go and check everything. They check, for example, their Wi-Fi's are secure. They check their servers are all updated. They check the firewalls. So they have that compliance and governance checklist. Also, another things that they do is secure storage and access control. Types of companies, for example, if you go to Wikuni and you try to insert your USB flash into the PCs, it doesn't work. It doesn't allow you to insert any PC, any USB into the PCs. Secure storage and access control. We will learn more about the access control. Sometimes in cybersecurity, you see something called RBAC or role-based access control. It means that it doesn't matter who are you. I'm a new staff in IT help desk, so it doesn't matter who I am. As an IT help desk in level 1, I have this access level. I cannot change it. I cannot delete it. Another thing that you will hear a lot in cybersecurity, it's something called least privilege. Least privilege means by default, I have no access. I started a new position in a company. By default, I have no access. Based on my job, based on my duties, based on the task, they give me some access. Access to what? Access to files, access to folders, access to softwares. Exactly the same way that I give you access to the next units. I can give access to assignments. The same way it happens to me as well. I have access only to cybersecurity and IT courses. I don't have access to hospitality or accounting or marketing content. I don't have access to their resources. I don't have access to their files. The only access that I have is only cybersecurity and IT files and folders. But it doesn't mean that I have access to everything in my department. No. Based on my requirement, based on my task, I have access to a class. I have access to some files. I don't have access to all the other information. It's called least privilege. It means that by default, I have minimum level of access. So companies, they always follow this procedure. Later on in cybersecurity, we'll learn more why it's so useful. Imagine that I have a job in IT. After 6 months, I see there is a new job opportunity in networking department. So I apply for that job and I leave my current position to a new position. So I should get terminated with all the previous access. Sometimes I remember that I was studying with another institute like 10 years ago. And I graduated. Still, after 2, 3 years, they sent me emails and they sent me the messages. I still had my access. They forgot to terminate my access after my graduation. Now everything is on the servers. And when, for example, an staff quits a business, they automatically terminate the access to Wi-Fi, terminate the access to the PCs, terminate the access to the resources. We call this role-based access control and list privilege.
Amir, one
Yeah.
more question.
Yes.
Uh, with the rollback access,
Yes.
Can you comment on whether there is advantage in either hierarchical or flat access?
Uh, Hierarchical or flat access, flat hierarchical access, obviously it's the case in reality.
Because yeah, but what's the best practice? Should you have it hierarchical? In that case, you don't know what the access is given at the various levels.
Yes, so that's a good point. Imagine that this is a company. In the company, I have a CEO here, for example. Okay. In this company, I have IT, I have marketing, I have sales. This IT manager may have some subordinates like network team, like software team, and security team. Okay. Imagine, for example, you work in the networking department. In networking department, it's you. Your name is Francis, yes? I'm
Yes,
correct.
yes,
So you work here and you have couple of, sorry, you have couple of other colleagues as well. Why I couldn't delete it? Like, for example, Paul and John. So for all of you guys that you are working in this level, working in the networking, it's like having flat access, which means you, Paul, and John, you all have the same level of access. So obviously, it's much easier for companies to have this role-based model. You have access to some files, folders, and systems. The same for Paul, the same for John. If tomorrow, if tomorrow, for example, John resign, why it doesn't go to my eraser? Imagine tomorrow John goes and sorry, it's confused. Instead of John, you have someone like Alex. So role based, as discussed, it doesn't matter who are you. Alex also gets the same level of access. But obviously, if here in the network department, you have, for example, Sarah as your manager. So obviously, Sarah has more access comparing to you, Paul, and John because Sarah is the manager of the department. Probably she has access to the rostering systems, she has access to more files and resources. So obviously Sarah has more access comparing to you, Paul, and Flat. But again, in the same level, it's highly possible that Sarah, and here imagine we have Connor, and also imagine we have Peter. Again, for these guys, probably they will have the same level of access, which is obviously higher than the. So it's mix of both. You have the flat access level in the same level of staff for the managers again. For the big managers, probably they will have the same level of access. But compared to the higher or lower levels, the access level is different. So imagine we have this structure across a big business. For example, NAB Bank. They have 1,100 branches across Australia. If they want to create access for each individual person, it's so hard. Instead, they just create an access level for cashier. They create an access level for branch manager. So it's a pool of rules and restrictions in this branch manager access list. It doesn't matter who becomes a branch manager, they automatically get all of those access, all of those permissions. It doesn't matter if they're in Melbourne, if they're in Sydney, if they're in Adelaide. It doesn't matter which branch they work because that person is a branch manager. They have the same level of access. So it's pretty like flat access for all branch managers. It doesn't matter who is the cashier. It doesn't matter where they're located because that person is a cashier. They have a specific level of access. So your question asking which one is better, technically in reality, we have a mix of both. We have flat for the same level of hierarchy, but compared to the higher or lower levels, the authority and the access level might be different.
Well, it becomes very difficult if I also want to have access, say Francis there,
Mhm.
and hence want to get access to sales.
So you don't need to have access to sales. Why you
But
need
what if I want to, if they want to give access to sales to
Okay,
me?
okay. So imagine, for example, now you are in network department and you need to get access to the sales as well. So when I go to the Active Directory next week in the server, there are a list of rules. For example, sales representative one, sales representative two. So it's pretty easy. If, for example, you are working in networking and you need to get access to some files on a permanent basis, for example, I just need to go and tick that box. Then you
Okay,
can get access to the sales information as well. But by default, when you are working in networking department in IT, why you need to have access to the sales data? You don't need. You don't need to have access to the sales data. You don't need even to have access to security data. You don't need to have access to software department data. But in case if they want to give you access, then that's totally fine. Here, Sarah sends a request and says, "Hey, Francis needs to have access to, let's just say, sales or marketing data, they can give you access." I know that it may take a bit of time, but when you compare the advantage and disadvantage of this model, you see that this model is much better because when the company is getting bigger and bigger and bigger with thousands of users and devices, there is no other way to manage such a big environment.
yeah, I get it. I get it. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good. So I think that's all enough. Let me to quickly have a look on your chat. 22 messages, pretty busy chat. I just go from the bottom to see what do you have. Heading off some Panadol, that's okay, Mac. Security, no less. Ivan, that's right. I'm on the board. Cool. Simple as thanks. Start. I learned that from MIOB. Secure. Do what you got to. Get this and move to, please. You should start looking for a new job. What happens if you forgot it in your pocket and gets washed in washing machine? Okay, so for those type of physical authenticators, if you forget it, then you just need to go and get a new one, and you need to sync it. That's the problem with those security with those physical authenticator. Not only if you lose it or if you put it in the washing machine, as I said, sometimes after a while, because they work with a battery. The digital authenticator is installed on your phone, but those physical authenticator they have a battery. So if for curiosity you take the battery out, they don't work. Even if you put the battery back, they don't work anymore. After a while, after 1 year, 2 year, you just need to go and replace the battery, and again you need to send it back to your employer so they can configure it for you. What else? Password manager. Password manager is another things. Password manager, there are some softwares. They go to a different process. They have encryption. What I was talking is using your browser password saver because it saves in your local browser. But using a password manager is a completely recommended tool. So you can use a password manager to keep your password, and that's a good thing. They use encryption, so even if someone can get access to the password manager, they can't read it. Data doesn't have any meaning for them. Who in the world has time to think of 18 character these days for a password? It takes them, if it's only numbers carrying, even if it's 20 character, it takes a minute. Now, I should check, but I reckon I read somewhere in the news a couple of weeks ago. I should double check, maybe I'm wrong. But it says now we have password crackers. They able to guess 20 billion password in a minute. So 18 character is nothing. It's just less than a minute. So they don't need to just go and try every single password manually. They are softwares. They just run the software and it goes check 20 billion password in a minute. That's okay, Shelly. So totally agree. Also doesn't take into account patterns, common words. Yes, completely true, Ivan. Again, in cybersecurity, that's a good point. Ivan says we didn't take into account patterns, common words, data. Yes, if you just go to Google, let me show you this for the last thing today. Where is my mouse? Where is my mouse? Okay. If you just go to Google and search for which screen is that one? Screen one. If you just go and type top 1,000 passwords or top 1 million passwords, there are so many websites on the web. In cybersecurity, we do this. We go and download the top 1,000 passwords or top 1 million passwords. 1 million passwords. So there might be so many common passwords on those lists. What we do, we just go and download that file. You can find those one top million passwords in a TXT file. What we will do in cybersecurity, we download as a TXT file. Then we go and we use some tools in Kali Linux. We upload that TXT file into that password cracker, and then it goes and check all of those 1 million passwords. It may take a bit of time, but there are tools like, for example, John the Hacker or John the Ripper, password cracking software. It's a software. Then you can upload 1 million password and a highly possible that a password might be among those lists. So yes. Oh, good guys.